welcome back to the channel. I'm Jonathan with Project Northeast. I'm up here at Highland Mountain Bike Park with Ryan, aka Live Free and Shred. Doing another bike review for you today. We're doing the brand new, all new Gen 6 Trek Slash. We're gonna take turns on it. He's got my DV8 Claymore. If you haven't watched that review video, I'll leave the flag at the top. And we're gonna be trading bikes back and forth. I've got the new Trek Slash 9.8 GX with the transmission, with the Vivid Air rear and the Zeb front, and he's going to be riding my DV8 Claymore with Fox factory suspension, and we're going to kind of swap back and forth today. This is our first run. I haven't even touched the bike yet, so you'll get initial impressions, and then you'll get initial impressions from Ryan as well as we go through and we kind of trade back and forth, see what we think of the bike. I've never ridden a mullet, so it's kind of weird for me, but we'll see how it goes. And don't know if I'm gonna like it. Might not, but let's get into it. All right, lap one, going right down cat's paw, because we know it so well. Wow, this thing sails. Wow, this thing's poppy. I don't think we could get better hero dirt than today. The thing I noticed is just the levers and the feel of this bike that I'm just not used to. You know, the cockpit. It's got Gnar brakes, or the old, what they used to call ours. And they're very, you know, levers are way out. Can't really adjust them. They got no contact adjustment, which I don't like. And then the new pod feeling from the Axis is very weird to me. Not used to it. So just getting used to the contact points is, you know, tough part of these reviews. All right, that was a good first run. Felt good, very poppy, very jumpable. Feels like it wants to, just feels natural in the air. It gives you a little bit more pop than I'm used to. All right, lap two. Let me go down fancy, something a little techy. Ah, that feels good. Ryan's leading me in the dust with the deviate. One thing I do notice about this bike, maybe it's the small wheel, maybe it's the suspension, but I feel like riding behind Ryan, when he puts a pedal stroke in with the deviate, that he's definitely gaining some serious speed on me. Woo! Get bounced all over the place with this thing. Definitely when he puts the pedal stroke in, it's like, okay. He's kind of dropping me a little bit, and then I try to pedal to keep up, and he's like gone. All right, we're gonna do that same exact lap. We've traded bikes. Ryan is now getting some action on the Slash. See what he thinks of that. Get his initial impressions. I'm actually able to keep up with them now. I wasn't before. I had to pedal a lot. What do you think so far? Yeah?
I'm getting hung up.
That's the exact feeling I had.
Hung up in all the holes.
Yeah.
All the little bumps. And like the square edge stuff. I'm like...
Doesn't it feel like it's like, ooh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the mullet.
It's something and you're like...
Exactly that.
That's exactly what I feel.
Yeah. Same lap as before. Oh, dude. Kind of how I felt in NoCo the other day, chasing people. How I'm just able to kind of like hang back, keep up, and I'm not even really working very hard. This thing plows pretty good. All right, climbing challenge here. Take the exact same line I took with the DV8 that I just rode.
Not even comparable.
It's weird, huh? It feels like this bike has like a pedal kickback on the climb, which, doesn't it feel like it grabs your pedal?
It does, but also this wheel feels like it gets up and out of the way much easier, and it just like...
Because that one's growing this way, and this one feels like it's growing this way.
But even that, it kind of just like move, like it like slithers up the hill. Like it just all traction, like unbelievable rear end traction.
I think it's because of the axle path. I think that one actually grows. This one doesn't really grow. It only grows because of the chainstay is getting straightened. Or the seats, yeah, the chainstay down there is just getting straightened because it's got two pivots. Ryan's still on the slash. He wanted to see what it felt like on a jump trail, which it feels really poppy. So the website says 178 for 160 pounds on the Vivid Shock.
With 32.5
with 32
millimeters.
No, 32% sag.
Yeah, 32%.
We're only getting like 28% sag at 165 we had it at. So now we're dropping to 160. So 18 PSI below what the website recommends.
Which is exactly my body weight.
Which is exactly both of our body weights.
Yeah, we both weigh 160.
And we'll see how it goes now. All right, yep. Time to try some jump trails. See how it does. Oh yeah. This is what, this thing feels butter on this. Wow. Feels so good on the jump. So. That was scary. Woo! So, even though this thing's pretty heavy, it does feel pretty balanced in the air.
It feels good. It feels good on that stuff.
I know. Let's see how this thing climbs.
Wow!
Ooh. This thing gets hung up. Oh, there it is.
Did it rip your feet down?
It rips my feet down when I get hung up on a rock. Oh, there it is again. I'm telling you, just try it. All right, so the one thing that we've been struggling with all day is pedal kickback on this bike. And this is what we just discovered on a tech climb, is when you get to like the 12 o'clock position on either pedal and you're going up a technical climb and you're going into the suspension and it's compressing, watch what happens. I'm gonna put pressure on the pedal and then push down on the suspension and watch what happens.
It's hard to get, oh, there it is.
It's physically pressing back and kicking back. It's super frustrating on a climb.
So, when you're at the top of your pedal stroke, you got no power here.
None. And then you compress and it's kicking back at you.
It feels like it totally kills your momentum.
It does. And that's why I don't like this climbing, technical climbs. I think it feels pretty bad because of that pedal kickback. All right, now we're gonna have Ryan do the little follow cam. See if I can drop him at all on a tech trail. Highly doubtful with he's riding the DV8.
To be fair, I haven't ridden this trail for a year.
He hasn't ridden this trail for a year. I just rode it the other night with that bike. But now we're gonna switch bikes. I'm gonna ride the Slash and see if I can drop him. I highly doubt it. And I gotta put my goggles on.
Oh, it just eats it up. Like, this is where I'll be able to catch him up. Wow. Yee! Oh, wow, this trail has changed a lot. It just bottomed out a little bit, but this bike is incredible.
All right. Well, what we found with this bike is it's really good in tech. That's steep and fast, so give a go on maiden. Yeah, it does pretty good on that stuff. Just a flat tech, it really gets hung up. And I don't like it on flat tech where you have to pedal, because this thing gets really bad pedal kickback. All right, let's go through the spec and the geometry of this bike real quick. It is the 9.8 GX Axis T-Type, comes full Axis T-Type transmission with the UDH hanger. It's got the Line Elite carbon rims, front and rear. It has a 29 front and mullet 27.5 rear. It's got the Bontrager Line Elite post at 170 millimeter length and a 34.9 size. It's got the internal storage, just like the previous generation Trek Slash. And it's got the Bontrager Line 35 millimeter long stem and the carbon bars. I believe they're 820s stock, or at least 800s. It has a 63.3 degree head angle. The reach is 468 in size medium large. It has an effective seat tube angle of 77, but actual is 73. It actually changes quite a bit at sag, so I don't think it's an actual 77 degree seat angle when you're pedaling. And it's got the Code bronze brakes, which I believe used to be the Code R, which is like the base, SRAM Code brakes. And it comes with the new pod from SRAM, which is a little bit different than the rocker if you're used to the old style Axis rocker. And on this bike, it comes with the all new Vivid Air rear shock. It's got 170 mil travel front and rear. And you can change out these shock mounts here, and you can change it to a 29-inch rear wheel by changing out these shock mounts that are available from Trek directly. And you just have to take off this rear fender, and you can run a 29-inch rear wheel. The other thing about the geometry is they're very short chainstays at 434 millimeter chainstays. is a very short dropper lever, which is pretty terrible from Trek. Sorry, but truth be told. And it's also got the Continental tires on there, which I was pretty impressed. Those do not come stock either. Those were changed out before I did this review, because the stock tires are not really up to par what this bike is meant for, in my opinion. Comes stock with centerline 200mm rotors, which is pretty cool for this bike to come stock with those, so you get all the stopping power. And all told, once you put all this together with the XT platform pedals that I prefer, this bike weighs in at a kind of portly 37.6 pounds, as you see it right now, with nothing stored in the down tube. All right, so what did I think of this bike? Final thoughts, pros and cons. As somebody that spent the last 3 years absolutely loving the Gen 5 Slash, coming to this was quite the change. They changed a lot. It was pretty drastic. And what did I think of it? So let's go over the pros first. The pros. This bike really excels at jumping, but pretty similar to the old one, where you would pop to the moon and it would inspire extreme confidence when you're trying to clear jumps. You don't have to pull very hard. It's very intuitive. You can just get into big jumps and you can do them pretty confidently. At least I did them pretty confidently on this bike. The other pros, the steeper the terrain, the better this performs. I mean, downhill rock gardens, like downhill steep rock ledges, rollers, stuff like that, it just feels really confidence inspiring. And it also, I kind of like that aspect when you're doing steep rock rolls and stuff like that with having the mullet rear. But that also comes with the downside of the cons of the rear wheel as well. Overall, I really like the T-Type. The transmission was great, feels really good. The rear shock feels pretty plush off the top. The suspension calculator was a little bit off. I'm 160 pounds, and I had to put, it said 178 PSI in the rear shock on the website, but I ended up with about 162 pounds of pressure to achieve 30% sag. The Zeb actually feels really good over the previous generation Zeb. Didn't really bottom it out like I used to. All right, now the cons, okay? I could not get around the weight of this bike. It's very heavy. It's 37.6 pounds as you see it. It has that pedal kickback that we talked about earlier in the video, to where when you're riding, you can feel it when you're going under load and you're going up onto like chunky terrain and you're moving into the suspension. Because even at 30% sag, you're going down when you hit a bump with all your weight on there. Even if you're going slow, you're going from like 30 to 50 to 60% suspension travel going up a technical climb. And you feel that pedal kickback, especially when you're at the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock positions of your pedals. It really kind of grabs you. And that was very noticeable for me. And then the thing that you can't get over when you're climbing is the weight. So the cons are, for me, the weight and the pedal kickback is very noticeable. And then descending flatter trails. I noticed that it might be a portion of the, suspension, or it could be the smaller rear wheel that I'm not used to. I would have a hard time getting it up, keeping it at speed, especially when it got low angle technical terrain. When you get to that more like flatter, like enduro stage type of terrain where you're gonna have to be pedaling through to gain momentum, that's where I kind of lost a little speed, versus a bike like the Deviate, which I ran back-to-back tests on certain trails that I've run many, many, many times, and run them with this bike and run them with the Deviate. And I was about, on a 3-minute trail, 10 to 15 seconds faster on the Deviate. And that could be because, of the rear wheel, because the Trek does say on the website, if you want more speed, go to 29. But I'm reviewing the bike as it is. It comes with a 27.5. To add a rear wheel from Trek to do the Bontrager Line Elite carbon rim would be $479, plus the flip chip, or plus the shock mounts, and then labor if you do it from a shop. So it would probably end up costing you about $600 when you're already buying an $8,000 bike. So with all that said, pros and cons and everything else, I just want to go over something really quick. And I'll show you the difference right now on the screen between like a bike high pivot like the Deviate and a high pivot that they're calling this a high pivot. Whereas on the Deviate, and I'll show you right now on the screen, it actually physically grows with a yoke on the bottom that actually extends, and there's only one pivot point on the high pivot. And the rest of the chainstay grows, which gives you 11 millimeters of growth, right? This bike, what it's basically doing to call, a rearward axle path is basically just straightening out the seat stay and chainstay. It's not actually physically growing. And that's where I think, maybe they could have done something a little bit different to make it like a true high pivot design where it actually does grow and get out of the way when you hit bumps. And I think that may be something, with the mullet rear, that it's even exaggerated that you're feeling that it doesn't actually grow backwards. It just kind of straightens. And yes, it is a rearward axle path, kind of similar to like the Specialized Enduro did years ago. But I don't think it's using the full advantage of what a high pivot should be. So in the end, who is this bike for? I think in the end, this bike would be great for somebody that's just looking for an insanely good park bike. Somebody that wants to jump huge jumps, like huge jumps with confidence, and have it just take it. It does feel a little heavy in the air, but it'll be good for that. Do I see myself riding this bike in the future? I don't think so. I don't think it's the bike for me. I'm only 150, 160 pounds. The weight in the rear, you feel it really, kind of like really centered on the rear. So, me doing technical moves, slow moves in the mountains and stuff like that, I don't think it would be my preferred bike. I would think I would actually prefer a Gen 5 on clearance for that type of riding, for the riding that I do. Blasting down really super steep rollers and chunk and hitting huge jumps, this would probably be good for that. But for my type of riding in the mountains, doing tight, technical, slow moves, awkward moves and stuff like that, with the pedal kickback, climbing really technical, slow climbs and stuff like that, I don't think I would enjoy it. I would enjoy a Gen 5 / a little bit more, because that bike continues to blow me away, and I wish maybe they had just done a little bit more, a little bit less with this bike and more like the Fuel EX, where they could have just really steepened the seat angle and kept a similar feel to the bike and lightness, because my Gen 5 / is 34 pounds. So they added 3.5 pounds of weight for the same bike. So with that being said, if that's what you're looking for, something to hit huge jumps with, ride super steep terrain, this probably would work really good for you. I had the opportunity to try this with 29 and I didn't, because if it doesn't blow me away with 27.5, I feel like if you're buying an $8,000 bike and it doesn't absolutely blow me away, I can't review something and say, well, you need to spend another $600 on a rear wheel to make it feel up to par for my type of riding. So I wanted to review it as is. If I was super stoked on how it rode, I think I would probably go that extra mile and put that on there. But I think with the downsides, the cons of this bike, I didn't end up doing that. I wanted to review it kind of as is and give you the whole truth. Not sugarcoat it, not to say it's a terrible bike, not to say it's a bad bike, but I didn't want to sugarcoat it and say, everything's perfect, go buy one. Because, at the end of the day, it's your hard-earned money and you're going out there and you're spending a lot of money on a bike. And you need to have all the information to make a sound decision. So as usual, hit that like, hit the subscribe button. If you want to support the channel, I appreciate any support that you guys give me. hit the Patreon down below. Consider, you know, supporting the channel. I don't do any affiliates or anything like that. And if you have any other questions on the bike, feel, kinematics, anything about this bike, hit it down in the comments. If I didn't go over it in the video, I'll try and hit your comments in the comment section and answer everything that I can. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.